Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk, and welcome back, members of the public.
Wait, sec, sorry. Just get a second.
Okay, welcome back, members of the public and members of council. We've reestablished quorum, and we're going to resume this council meeting. We were on item 13.7, discussing our housing affordability strategy, and Councillor Pirelli had the floor, I believe. Go ahead, Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to move an amendment, but I've decided not to. I'll just speak to the main motion as amended. As I stated before, Mr. Chairman, I'll be brief. I believe, as you stated, you moved this motion at the regional level. That's its rightful place. That's where we should be discussing affordability. We look at the page 3 of the report, and as Commissioner Kwan mentioned, there's actually 44 actions that are mentioned. And I believe all of them, Mr. Chairman, directly or indirectly, will result in an increased tax burden to the residents, directly or indirectly. And that is contrary to the direction that council has given staff regarding our budget requests. So in order not to be a hypocrite, Mr. Chairman, I won't be able to support this. My concern is that every time we ask staff to look into these matters, it adds to the bottom line, and those staff hours add up very quickly, and that puts extra pressure on our budget. So I like the concept, of trying to make things affordable. We all have family, we all have friends, some of us have children, and yes, we'd like all of them to live close by to us, and we'd like everybody to be able to afford a house. The question is, how do we get there? It's been an age-old question, and it's counterintuitive to people depending on the stages in their life. If you're a senior and you're looking to downsize, you want to get as much money as you can for your property so that you can have a nice retirement. And so to ask them to foot the bill to help others at this level of government is, as Councillor Barrows said, we need to stay in our lane. This is not the proper forum for it, because I'm afraid, Mr. Chairman, if we open Pandora's box on this one, next will be, we're going to come up with a strategy for our healthcare system. That's been widely criticized that, during the pandemic, we didn't have enough beds, etc. Didn't have enough staff to support those sick people. And next we'll be, devising a strategy for that as well. And again, that's not within our mandate, and therefore I respectfully will vote against this. Thank you.
Okay, any other members to speak to this? Councillor West, I believe it'd be a second round for you. Go ahead.
Actually, I just need to wrap up. So why don't I wait until the wrap up moment, and then I'll do it 3 minutes instead of my 5.
Okay, it's your motion. You can take your 3 minutes after everyone's had an opportunity. Anyone else want to speak to this? I think I've been clear about my support for the strategy. I want to thank our staff for bringing this forward. I do think there are many ways we can affect housing affordability, market affordability by approving and incentivizing different types of housing stock for residents of Richmond Hill. I think it's important, it's appropriate, and it definitely needed. So, Councillor Munch, you wanted to speak also before I go back to Councillor West? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So we need to get housing built. For those of you that don't think we have a shortage of supply, we are ranked 29th in the world, 29th in the world, providing shelter to our people. Every single day, every media outlet talks about this. The fact that people don't know about the concerns that we have really is concerning to me. It's concerning to many, many people that are coming, making delegations, go down the street. we shouldn't have to wait 2 to 3 years to get something going in this municipality when we are the second least housing affordable municipality, with the amount of investment that is coming into this municipality from the rest of the province. And we don't have enough housing, and we don't have enough means for our business community are screaming out when our people are screaming out. And there's more subsidized housing in my ward than all the rest of Richmond Hill combined. And second in York Region. And I'm going to say too that when we have safety and security issues on Yonge Street, when we have waiting lists of 14 years to get people into housing on the subsidized front, when we have housing costs going up at 7, 8, 9%, we're going to have a liquidity crisis. I don't know if you know, but China is having a liquidity crisis on housing right now. We have the federal government just today announced on how the debt crisis that we're under. Real GDP has not gone up, yet housing's gone through the roof for our basic needs. And the next generation absolutely do matter. Our seniors do matter, and families do matter, and the business community does matter. And we want prosperity for everyone. And housing is a basic need, and we can't afford it. When it costs $200,000 a family household income to afford a home here, when the median household income, as the last census, was $88,353, and we don't realize that there's a problem, and it's our responsibility. Housing is exclusively our responsibility for approvals. I would say to you, I think we should be moving forwards. I'm disappointed that there are some staff members that don't see this as a sense of urgency. This is a sense of urgency for the market. It's a sense of urgency for me. It has always been in the community for years. Yesterday, we had an issue with York Region Police and York Region Housing on trying to build an even a bigger center on Yonge Street, which I thank the region for doing that. We need action, period. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, I don't agree with some of the things that have been said today, but I think this has been a good discussion, and I thank everybody on council for that and the delegations. There's no question in my mind that this is complicated and it's complex. And I mean, I get that there's going to be a lot of the items in there that people in the building industry are not necessarily going to love. There's probably going to be things that we're going to come up with that the public isn't necessarily going to love always. But let's face it, everybody on council, we're in the business here of doing the best thing that we can for the community as a whole, and we are absolutely working in the imperfect. We do the very best we can, and I believe that will be the outcome. As for the comments about staying in your lane, this is absolutely something that a municipality has to be involved in order to solve the problem. I mean, it's kind of like saying, well, greenhouse gas emissions isn't really a municipal issue. I mean, it certainly is. But, greenhouse gas emissions are where, happen where people live. I mean, there's industries and so on too, but I mean, it is absolutely something that hits the ground in the municipality, just like affordable housing. And it's really important that we get this right. There was a comment made earlier, and I want to just clarify this, that, and it has to do with kind of staying within our jurisdiction. Social housing is not really all we're talking about here. We're talking about affordability for people that are living in really nice houses in Richmond Hill, but couldn't afford to live there today. Like if they had to buy the house today, they wouldn't be able to afford it. And I mean, that's a double-edged sword. I mean, it really is. But the reality is there's lots and lots of people, and I'm one of them, that has a young person in the household that is in the next few years ready to, move on and so on. Where are they going to live? And it's not even just a Richmond Hill problem. It's a GTA problem. It's a Canada problem. It's pretty much worldwide, but it starts where we are today. And in our job as councillors, we are uniquely positioned to be able to do everything that we can do in partnership with other levels of government. I believe that's what this report is going to get us. We need to, we'll get there, and we'll get there as quickly as we can, but we will get there, but we need to start the journey, and we need to start it today. So I hope we have enough support to do that, and I look forward to the vote. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West. So I'm going to put it to a vote, and I've got a requested recorded vote from Councillor Silovitz. So Mr. Clerk, if you'll do the roll call.
Thank you. To Mr. Acting Mayor, voting on the main motion as amended, Councillor Silovitz.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Acting Mayor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor West.
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Barros, are you there? Counselor Barros is absent. Regional Local Counselor Pirelli.
I abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Counselor Chan.
Yes, it's about time.
Thank you. And Counselor Liu.
Yes, please.
Thank you. The motion does carry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, we go now to items that have been pulled out by counselors. One counselor pulled out items 9 and 10. I think that was Counselor Chan. Counselor Chan, 13.9.
Yes. Correct. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I pulled that out. I just want to get some answers to the question I have. And this is regarding, I gather I would call it another sole sourcing, non-competitive procurement. So I understand, I read it, and we are talking about not exceeding $2.4 million exclusive HST for another 2 years. Just for the purpose of discussion, maybe I move for the recommendation ABC so that we do have a motion, and then I start asking the questions. Mr. Chair, you want me to go on, or I would be happy to go on if that's okay.
Well, are you willing to move the motion?
Yes, I did, but
Okay,
just
good,
to get the
good.
motion on the table,
Then,
but then I have questions to obtain some answers from staff.
go ahead with your questions. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, well, let me get a seconder first. Thanks, Counselor Chan. Is someone willing to second this motion? Thank you, Counselor West. Okay, go ahead, Counselor Chan.
Thank you. Yes, now, it's similar to another sole sourcing contract I have in the past regarding computer software. I just want to ask questions for you, Mr. Chair. Is this company, because we see the name a lot, the Pyramid Technology Group Canada, is this the only group in Canada that provides or supplies water meter? Through you, Mr. Chair, to start.
Very good question. Mr. Dexter's come on, I see. So go ahead, Mr. Treasurer.
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Neptune is the provider of our water meters, and they've been the provider of our water meters throughout this program that we've invested with the new radio frequency meter since 2012. They're not the only organization in North America that provides it. There are other organizations, but this is the one we've worked with. And the sole source requirements for proprietary reasons, because we're using the assets that they provided that have been installed in about 98% of our residents' home, to continue progressing using that. So that's the reason for the non-competitive acquisition.
Thank you. Through Mr. Chair, the answers from Mr. Treasurer. There's 2 points I pick up. One is that they are not the only supplier. But number 2 is that there's proprietor relationship, even though we have a 9-year relationship. And it's good. And one angle, which is data supply, they know the technology, they know all the other things. The other way to look at it is that would it be fair to say that like 2 years from now, from Mr. Chair, perhaps we start with an answer. Would we basically, if someone on council asked the same question, would we sort of get a similar answer, like, because propriety reasons that we lock in? I just try to get a sense, because I use the word lock in. It's not a slip of the tongue, because like if we have all this relationship, it's almost every 2 years we'll be coming to council, whoever will be there on council will say, oh, this is something, the same reason I'm hearing, we just have to renew it. I just got the sense that this is, would it meaning we're really, in a sense, lock in with the company, through you, Mr. Chair, to staff.
Mr. Dexter?
Yes, through you, Mr. Acting Mayor. So we've made quite a significant investment in the community with these radio frequency meters. We are progressing to really further advance the technology of how we do that area of business to a more smart city type of way. with advanced metering infrastructure, in which case meter reading can be done remotely at the city hall offices, and then gaining that additional information, we can bill more often. We can identify high water usages much sooner to help the residents out. So we're taking advantage of all that. It all comes in a package with this company, and it's a highly reputable company in the industry. In 2 years from now, we probably will be asking to extend a contract further to continue to take advantage of the investment that we've made into this.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for the answer. And yes, this is, let me be clear, certainly a reputable company, and it's nothing questioning about that. But also based on answers I'm hearing is that it's the scenario I would just try to play it out is possibly could happen based on the answers we got, because we already have made so much investment, we have already so much relationship in the particular the infrastructure or the network or whatever relationship with the company. But it's also one last question I have is that I kind of hearing that okay, it would help because we've continued with them with basically building upon the investment we make. There might be some also return. I kind of hear some of that, like the smart use of the reading and so on. So would that mean maybe down the line, even within the same, dealing with the same vendor, same company, would that be potential, well, maybe hard to identify savings, but if those are kind of artificial intelligence or some of those a smart use of technology, would it mean maybe their potential either other than whatever the adjustment because of inflation, because whatever, would it be fair to say that there might be some potential savings in that sense over a longer term to staff? I know it's maybe difficult to answer, but I'm trying to hint at what are the return for in continuing every 2 years with the increasing smart use of technology through you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Dexter?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, there is a savings, cost reductions in many areas of that area of service. For example, meter reading costs, right? Where back in the, before all these radio frequency meters were implemented starting in 2012, and the process for the 9 years after, someone had to go to each door or each house and read it. And there was a significant cost to do that. When we got to radio frequency meters, about 98% of the community, then vehicles could drive along the streets and pick up that information. So that significantly reduced the cost, to something like, about almost $90,000 a year approximately. When we move to, remote reads where they don't have to drive around anymore, our costs are going down to, less than $10,000 for meter reading. So there is cost savings as we move along and improve the technology. And of course, the benefit to the resident is, could be big cost savings, identifying high water uses, be it one of their fixtures has a leak or something like that, and that could be identified earlier with this technology. So there could be some, as we move along, there's some bigger savings and help to the residents.
Thank you. I'm very glad to hear answers from the treasurer, because that on one hand is that over 2 years, 2.4, not more than 2.4 million. But I'm pleased to hear, and I hope that others would hear as well. So as a member of public, that actually it's not showing here, but it's all these other benefits and the cost reduction or management control that actually brings with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I already have raised a question and answers, and as I said, I already moved, and I think that already been second. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Chan. Okay, yes, it has been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, very good. That carries. Now, 13.10 was also pulled by you, Councillor Chan. 13.10.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This one is a report back on advertising in ethnic media. This is something I believe very strongly, particularly in our very diverse population in Richmond Hill, ensuring our messages, and particularly important messages in relating to municipal services that are actually really reach out extensively as possible within the resources we have. And so I'm glad to have this report. In fact, I had discussions with communication staff prior to today we're seeing this report here. So I just want to say thank you for the communication staff and anyone who'll be working on this to come here for, although we say for information purposes, the recommendation I'm moving, but also lots of work behind the scene and the communication staff that work on. I want to thank them. Also, I think it's informative to all of us and another opportunity to have an update on what the demographics. Actually, I would venture to say is changing demographics in the city of Richmond Hill. And it's something related to age, something to other profile, but there are certain pattern or trends that I think is helpful, not just for this report, but for all other planning or policies and so on. I do have a question through you, Mr. Chair, is that perhaps on page 3, that staff did mention, talking about the current initiatives. I do know this is something not presently our staff would have the capacity of multilingual staff, or not just lingual, but the kind of ability, or I shouldn't say ability, the kind of skill set that are particular for the translation and perhaps also our other services offer the language line for interpretation. So the question to staff is that how are quality control being implemented or followed? Presumably that whatever coming back from the professional service vendor would be used for publication. Was that the situation, or is there another level perhaps is for either monitoring or quality control on a periodic basis? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I see our communications director, Ms. Gravers, popped on there, so I'll direct the question to you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Chan. Yes, we do work with professional services for translation and proofreading. We have worked with 2, and we have a 3rd vendor. I've been reaching out to colleagues in other municipalities to see if they have recommendations for vendors that they use. We are in the sort of piloting testing phase of a few of those vendors to see the quality coming back. We do have some staff that we are able to request to look at it to some degree, noting, of course, they are not professional translators themselves. So, this isn't part of their regular position, but it is something we try to work on to the best of our ability. And we do have those vendors who also provide a proofreading on top of it. So it is a work in progress for sure, as these vendors get used to our tone and our expectations and preferences. And we're always reaching out to others to see what is available to us in terms of other vendors to use. So we do monitor quality. I appreciate there's, it's not at 100% yet, but we're working towards it for sure, because it is very important to us.
Thank you. And thank you for the answer. I'm very pleased to hear that that not only mine have been turned to in terms of monitoring, because let's face it, it's not just say put something into Google Translate, because otherwise, almost everyone can do it if you have access to that. Then I'm glad to hear that not only turning to mine, but is actually another mechanism, so to speak, because I'm using one concrete example just to share so that people know that I'm not talking about in a hypothetical situation. And I share that with our staff, is that the reason our city's great attempt in also publishing some of those, I believe, is 5 most asked questions in Access Richmond Hill, other than English, in other languages, Russian, Farsi, and Chinese. And the language I also can read. Like we're talking about, are the street lights out? Now, out could be meaning just outside, but out is also meaning it's not working. And when I read the one in Chinese, I don't see that meaning out, meaning not working. It just means outside. So that's something that I share with staff. It's not meant to be critical, but also just to ensuring that would be in the future, that would be opportunity to ensure not just the meaning of out, but actually out here meaning not working. So fix it. So that's just one example, but I'm glad staff were talking about the turn mind to it and the mechanism to monitor and follow. And I want to also take this opportunity to congratulate and compliment staff at all levels. And particularly, I would like to see, and I talked to city manager in the past, really promoting the great service we have, the language line. I think it's almost like, what, 240 languages? But we have to proactively promote it, particularly perhaps in non-English channels to the extent possible. Obviously not possible for all 240 languages, but nonetheless, based on the demographics, seeing what the numbers are, will be helpful to the extent resources available. But one part about resources, I would like to ask through the chair is the staff, what about the opportunity of engaging community groups? Because it's not just spending money buying ads, but engaging community groups that hopefully there's no extra dollars have to pay out, but engaging them as partners to help reach out to the communities that with the important municipal or city programs, policy and services. Has that thought, I believe it kind of touched on some way, but I'd like to hear from staff what the thinking might be through you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll pass on your question. I neglected to give you your 1 minute warning, but your time has elapsed now.
It's the last question. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, good. So I'll pass it on. Ms. Graver, you can answer that?
Thanks. Through the chair. Yes, Councillor Chan, we have been reaching out to certain groups that we are connected with in the community to help spread the word in multiple languages, as well as our everyday communications activities in English. And we always look to broaden those channels. That's beyond, I'm speaking from a communications and a providing information lens, not engagement in terms of consultation, which is a different bucket onto itself. But for the purpose of promotion, we do seek out those opportunities to connect with our community partners as much as we can to have them spread the word on our behalf.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for being giving me that, well, less than 1 minute warning, but I'm very, very happy to move that recommendation and demonstrate Richmond as a welcoming, inclusive, and proactive organization reaching out to our diverse communities. Thank you for all the good job, communication, all staff, and thank you, Mr. Chair and my colleagues.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Chan. Councillor Liu, did you want to second this? Yeah.
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. I'm more than happy
Go
to
ahead.
second the motion. Thank you very much. I too want to thank staff for a very comprehensive report. This is a job well done. This is a motion from myself when council decided to cut the budget on local newspaper, and I advocate that we should allocate some budget to the ethnic media, and this is where we are right now, and it's very, very thorough and a very good report. Thank you very much, and I agree. There's no one size fit all method, so it's up to staff, and also in order to engage the local community group, I think it's also on the shoulder of all the councillors to reach out to the groups and all the residents. So thank you. Just want to congratulate staff for a great report. This is a good exercise. Yeah, so this is the way to move forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got that staff report moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor? Report. Okay, that carries. Thank you. And the next item that was pulled, 13.14, I believe.
No, 14.1, Mr.
But,
The
okay.
member's motion.
So there wasn't any other items pulled, but we do have a member's motion, which we will deal with. It's item 14.1. Go ahead, Councillor Barrows.
Not a lot to say here. It's very self-explanatory. We had a pilot project. It was successful, and now the next step in this process is to move it on to the comprehensive zoning bylaw for inclusion in that process, and then just kind of go through the system, and it'll pop back up again later at some point. So it's my motion. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Someone want to second this motion? I'll leave the chair if I have to. Councillor Pirelli. Okay, so it's moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Oh, Counselor West, go ahead.
Thank you. When we discussed this initially, I wasn't in favor of doing this pilot project, and I'm still have some concerns about it. But I will say on a positive note that I said at the time, and this is not what council did, but I said at the time that it should be sent to the comprehensive zoning bylaw process. If we were going to do something like this, that's the place that it should go to. The part that I still don't understand, though, is that we had two people, according to a memo that we got from planning staff, that went ahead and used this to erect these temporary plastic tarped car structures. I have not received any word whatsoever from anybody in the area that I represent that they would want to allow their neighbors, or themselves for that matter, to put up that kind of thing in the front yard, like in the driveway of a house. And the concern that I have, and I've heard from other people as well, that, you know, we spend a lot of time and effort to try to make our subdivisions and communities look really nice, and that, you know, if we allow this type of temporary structure to be built in the front yard, that it could have a negative impact on the look of the street. So I am concerned that you know, okay, fine, we're sending it to the comprehensive zoning bylaw process to talk about, and I suppose this, you know, at that time that the community will weigh in on that item. But I actually don't see, there's nowhere close to a critical mass in my mind of residents that have spoken to me anyway, that would say, yes, we need this and we should be doing it. If that was the case, I would be totally in favor of this, but I have not heard that. In fact, I've heard some you know, negative feedback about the possibility of that happening as well. So I don't think that we are, you know, we make policies for the general community. I stand to be corrected, and this is my opinion, I suppose, but I don't see that this particular item benefits the community. It obviously benefits a couple people on that one street, and it may benefit others too, but I don't see there's anywhere close to a majority of people that would find this appealing. So I won't be voting in favor of the motion at this time. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, I'll be supporting this only because it's moving forward the results of the comprehensive zoning bylaw for inclusion into the process. So that's, I think this will be helping to inform our official plan update process. And I don't see the action portion of this motion that doesn't confine or restrict our staff in any way. It to me stimulates a little more discussion. So I'll support the motion. Okay, and I see no one else looking to speak to this. So all in favor of the motion? Okay, so that carries only, and that's noted. Okay, very good. Okay, we had no emergency time sensitive matters. With regards to the bylaws, I'm going to turn over the clerk because there's two bylaws that will not be moved at this time because of the referral of the noise bylaw. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, it would be in order only to move bylaws number 16.1 to 16.4 and 16.7 to 16.9. So in other words, bylaws 16.5 and 16.6 should not be moved for passage at this time due to the referral.
Very good. Okay, can I get a counselor to move all the bylaws except for 16.5 and 16.6? Thank you, Counselor West and Counselor Silivas. Any discussion on these bylaws? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Very good. Now we require a resolution to move into closed session. Can I get a member? Thank you, Counselor West, and seconded by Counselor Silivas. We'll move into closed session. I believe the clerk has to state the nature of the reason that we're going into camera.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, the resolution would be to move into closed session A, to consider personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees, with respect to the Richmond Hill Public Library Board citizen appointment process for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 term of council pursuant to section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001, and B, to consider personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees with respect to the Heritage Richmond Hill Committee citizen appointment process for the remainder of the 2018 to 2022 term of council pursuant to section 239(2)B of the Municipal Act 2001.
Very good. Okay, so I'm going to call the vote. It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Okay, that carries. So members of the public, we will reconvene in open session once we've finished with our in-camera discussion. So we will definitely reconvene to let you know what's happened there. But at this point in time, we will be going into an in-camera process, and the public will be excluded from this portion of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Members of council, we will actually terminate this Zoom meeting. You will have received separate email credentials for the closed session portion of this meeting, which will begin in closed session. Following closed session, we will live stream the